So CDPR, they've wrapped up their third quarter of the year. They issued a bunch of interesting little bits of information. If you're ever interested in this, you can actually look at their dedicated X profile, which is CDPR IR, IR standing for Investor Relations. This is something you can see on most publicly traded websites. They have at like the very bottom of the page, or sometimes in a separate tab, they have investors as its own tab. And if you go there, you can get like their 10K reports. You can get all of their financial information, tons of cool little details and stuff. But as part of this, they issued a bunch of information that people have been taking and looking at. Interesting little tidbits like further strong revenue from Cyberpunk, from Phantom Liberty, and The Witcher 3, even through just this quarter. 228 PLN. What does that translate to? That's about 56 million US dollars. So not terrible. So about 56 million, considering no new launches or anything. That's not bad. Total post-release sales of Cyberpunk 2077 has topped 30 million copies. Jesus. While Phantom Liberty expansion has sold over 8 million copies. Can't recommend Phantom Liberty enough, by the way. But I do think a lot of this crossover is probably like a lot of last gen sales and stuff that is not supported by the expansion. But I mean, it really shows. This is why I think it's so crucial for people to understand, because they throw around all the time. They're like, well, this game, started rough, but they can patch it and fix it up. I'm like, the difference is people really wanted Cyberpunk. The hype level was through the roof. Same thing with like No Man's Sky, started through the roof. And then they screwed up the launch, but they fixed it. And then all those people that were initially excited came back and loved it. For games that nobody really cared about to begin with, like a Suicide Squad, you can't just fix it up and boom, 30 million copies sold, because the hype was never there to begin with. Same with Concord or any of these other games that flopped. The only reason these worked was because there were that many people interested to begin with, and then they delivered what they wanted and boom, like it works. But you can't just, if people weren't initially in love with the idea, with the pitch, they're not going to magically change now that they see it's polished up or anything. What's interesting about this too, look at this quote. I'm proud to confirm that several weeks ago, the Polaris team wrapped up pre-production and moved on to full-scale production, the most intensive phase of development. This is for Project Polaris, which is the first installment in the new Witcher trilogy. We are very pleased to progress on this project, and I wish to thank the team for its dedication, says Mikhail Nowakowski, joint CEO of CD Projekt. The company also announced that both products from the Cyberpunk universe have reached important sales milestones. That's awesome. And they shared some other graphics with this as well. One that just clearly outlines their current assignments, as you can see here, where development teams engaging in ongoing projects. In July, at the end of last quarter, they had 410 people working on Polaris, which is the next Witcher game. And now that is at 400. A few people have shifted around through all of this. These could be engineers working on code. It could be pre-production writers. It could be character designers that don't have as much work to do over here now, so they're moving to other projects. It's kind of hard to say, but huge team that's working on this right there. This project, Project Orion, I believe this is the Cyberpunk sequel, or the next Cyberpunk game that is still in pre-production, and that is in the works. Sirius and Hadar. Yes, I'll have to remind me. This guy did it. Thank you. Polaris is Witcher 4. Orion is Cyberpunk 2. Sirius is the Witcher 1 remake. Hadar is a new IP. So Sirius is now at 42. It's at the same size in pre-production. I imagine that's pre-production. They might honestly not need that many more people, but that's what these guys. I believe the team that's doing the remake is the same team that did the Thaumaturge, Fool's Theory. This was like a really trippy, very interesting RPG. I recommend you check it out if you've not seen it. It's very interesting and very different. The combat system is based around time also, so it's about performing actions within a set period of time instead of just like one action, kind of like D&D where it's like, oh, you get one action, one one bonus action, whatever. In this case, it's based around time spent during the round to perform those actions. So some actions might take you multiple rounds to actually perform. So it's very interesting. It's an interesting little combat system. But they also did a really good job with building it out with the writing and everything. And they've been tapped to work on the full remake of the first one, which is awesome. I don't know if this count is including that team, or if this is that team, or if this is just the people within CDPR corporate that are working on it. I'm not really sure, but the point is, like, the project is about the same as it was last quarter. Hadar, which is the new IP, early pre-production. And in case you're not familiar, pre-production is basically the time when you're designing the design doc. You might be doing R&D. So imagine like pre-production on something like Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. That's when you're coming up with what's the story going to be. We have this idea for the Nemesis system. How is that going to work? Okay, let's build it out with spreadsheets and with all this. Let's make a prototype in the code. Let's do that. And this is what it's going to look like, and this is how it's going to work. And you build out all those systems and prototypes. And then once you have everything kind of prepped and you sort of have the blueprints for what you want to make, then you enter full production. And that's when you go balls to the walls, implementing that blueprint and actually building the thing. And that's where Project Polaris has moved from. So they went from pre-production, where they had a lot of people working on it, and now they're into full production, where everybody's actually executing on those design docs and everything that they are planning on. So they've got a lot of pots on the stove for sure, but they are going into overdrive, and it's actually entered full production, which is awesome. How long does pre-production take? It really depends on the type of game. So pre-production can take anywhere from a year to 3 or 4 years. And then full production is usually the most intense, but also it can be shorter than pre-production, where it might be like 3 years, 2-3 years of full crazy work to actually deliver on it. But it really depends. Like, for example, Bethesda Game Studios, they said a lot that they believe great games are played, not made, right? Like, their philosophy was make pre-production as short as possible. They said this openly in their interviews about the creation of, like, I think it was the documentary on the making of Fallout 3, where they said, we want to get out of pre-production as quick as possible, and we just want to start building and iterating, because we want to try something, and if it doesn't work, we cut it and we do something else. That works when you're a small team, doesn't really work when you're on the big scale with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And I think part of their problem is that they still design games that same way, and it doesn't really work when you're a massive team. So I think that this is probably indicative that we're going to get whatever the next Witcher game is in 2 to 3 years. Probably about 1.5 to 2 years until we start hearing about it, seeing trailers and stuff like that. I also anticipate that it's going to be a marketing behemoth, because not only, and this is my prediction, I don't have any direct information, but I think NVIDIA is going to be going balls to the walls, trying to utilize special integrations to promote their graphics technology for like the 50 series and for everything else they're going to be doing for DLSS 4.0 and everything. They're going to be pushing all of that with this because they have a history of doing it with CDPR for their graphical powerhouse games. And I also think that Epic Games is going to be doing a lot to use this game to promote Unreal Engine. So there's going to be all sorts of special little demos and stuff where they're showing the upcoming technology used in The Witcher 4 or whatever they end up calling this. It's not going to be The Witcher 4. They're going to call it something else. But whatever this ends up being called, this is going to be like the primary driving marketing force for that. And so I think once we start hearing about it, we're going to hear a lot about it. And I think we're going to see a lot of it. And it's going to be one of those like showcase games once more, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with seeing a lot of the cool tech. But I do think that this is going to be one of those games where the hype level is going to be ridiculous, because I do fully believe that they are going to, I think they're going to have a lot of really crazy stuff. They're going to have a lot of crazy tech, because whatever they saw in the Epic Games offices that convinced them to abandon the Red Engine, which was amazingly powerful. Yeah, it had its problems, but amazingly powerful, ran The Witcher and ran, of course, Cyberpunk. They were shown stuff that Epic was working on that made them want to abandon their own engine. And yes, there was a data breach and they had source code leak and there were other problems that went on. But they saw something that excited them enough that they abandoned that thing they'd worked on for like 2 decades. And I think that is awesome. I think that's really exciting. Because whatever they saw behind closed doors in the prototype phase, they were like, oh, shoot. And so I think it's going to be exciting. So we'll see that. But it's going to be one of those games where the hype level is going to be crazy because I think they're going to be showing some amazing NPC tech. They're going to be showing some crazy graphical tech. They're going to be showing some cutscenes and cinematics and stuff that look like those old school pre-rendered cutscenes. The fidelity is going to be insane and it's going to make people lose their minds. So buckle up, buckaroo. That pause was suspicious, Luke. What do you know? I know you're going to probably be impressed with what you see. That's what I think. In other words, nothing. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Translation, nothing. To be clear, there will still be drama from the rumblings I've heard of what like they're looking at doing, whether it ends up being locked in or not. But I think there will be those who try to make drama out of some of the stuff they do. Kenneth, thank you again for the membership, my friend. Blake, thank you for that 5. What 3 things do you like to see them added or improved upon in the next Cyberpunk game? I think they got to deal with inventory. The inventory management stuff in Cyberpunk, the base Cyberpunk 2077 was nightmarish. Way too much garbage. Way too much crap. I'd like to see them improve like enemy AI. I want to see more verticality, frankly. They did better than like The Witcher, of course, because they kind of had to, but I'd like to see things like the flying cars, more vehicles. I think stuff like that would be awesome. And I mean, we're kind of comparing like the 2.0 version compared to the first version, because they did like the 2.0 version of Cyberpunk is way better than the original. But yeah, I think augmentations need to be enhanced and expanded, and they also need to redo the whole marketplace for them, because they were one of the coolest aspects of the Cyberpunk universe, but they were so damn expensive that you might be able to get a few by the end of the game, but like really, really tough to actually manage. Third person, an option for it would have been nice, because it never made sense that you're doing all of this crazy customization of like your character's look and their clothes and their outfits, but you can never see your character until the final cutscene at the end of the game. So I think they got to do that. Yeah, they could fix up gunplay. There's a handful of things, you know. But honestly, if they can deliver an entire game built on the foundation of Cyberpunk 2077 2.0, I think that could pop off. Loxy, thank you so much. 10 gifted subs over on Twitch. That's crazy. That's crazy. Didn't think the augmentations were that hard to get. Well, I mean, when I say like, I want them to be more accessible, I mean like, I want to experiment. I want the gorilla fists, and I want to be able to swap them out for the mantis claws, and then or mantis blades, and then I want to go and I want to swap out maybe new enhancements to make it so you can jump 20, 30 feet in the air. I want it, yeah, more parkour aspects. That's something you could get an enhancement or an augmentation for that. There's all sorts of crazy things that you could add if you really started to expand it. And so I think that could be really, really cool. I also love the hacking stuff that they did, but I do think that could also be overhauled and streamlined a lot, because it was pretty clunky the way it was implemented. The Phantom Liberty DLC with the destructible environments during that first boss fight, that was really cool. I'd like to see more of that implemented across the board with more destructible environments and stuff. Max would be cool. Yeah, that could be cool. Yeah, the in-game economy is kind of just a disaster even after all of the work they've done. So I think they got to enhance that. I love sim stuff. So I think that they could do improved stuff for either like investments, kind of like in GTA where you can buy the movie theater and you can buy things like that. I think that could be a cool thing to implement for passive income. Still to this day, the GTA 5 systems with the stock market are some of the most wacky and crazy ideas I've seen. Like in GTA 5, literally, you can go and like you can buy stock in the competitors of, I forget the name of the company. It's like the Apple, Facebook joke company, But after the assassination of the dude, then that stock spikes. And if you play it right, like you can end up with tens of millions of dollars just because you bet on the stock market before you toyed with it. And that's so brilliant. Like that's such a clever way of doing it. And I would love to see more stuff like that implemented. Because they have little tidbits of it here and there. But Life Invader, that's what it was. Life Invader. Yeah, I'd like to see more games play with that stuff. I really hope that's a thing in GTA as well, is that they bring back like the stock market stuff, because that was super cool. I hope they work on vehicle control. It always felt like driving on ice for me. Yeah, honestly, they never really, even after all the patches, it got a little better. But I have a mod installed that improves it a little bit more. But yeah, they drive a little clunky. It's like this bad middle ground between like sim and gamified driving. So it just doesn't do either of them particularly well, in my opinion. I don't really like the way vehicles control. He took my thing. Red flag.